Okay, so we are right back where we started. Sorry, we're back where we left off. Um, so my recommendation as you sit down to grade your student's work or to just go in and check on how your student is doing. Um, but you're probably going to do some grading and you'll want to do grading. You'll want to see what your student is struggling with and that kind of thing. So as you go in to do the grading, you're going to probably want to just go into each one of these, drill down in one at a time, and get them their corrections reassigned. Um, I also wanted to point out, see, this one's reassigned and they're ready to go. So don't worry about that 0 score. That's not going to stay that way. I did also want to point out to you what this CRX mode means, because several of your students, for some reason or another, have a CRX mode that they're in their course, that they're enrolled in. And so at the beginning of every unit in CRX mode or prescriptive mode, they're going to have this pre-test. And it's going to say skipped. And let's see, you're going to notice, I guess I didn't do very well, but it's going to say skipped sometimes on the lessons because however they do on this pretest, any of the questions, and you can go in and look at the score. Interesting. I want to see what they got wrong. So I'm going to update the score to the 50. We'll just update it to 50. Okay, and that takes us in and lets us see what questions they got right, what questions they got wrong. You don't have to do this. This is just something you can do if you want to see how they did. But any of these questions that they got right, they actually get to skip that lesson in the unit. So if we go back to gradebook, then any of those lessons that are automatically skipped are skipped because they did well on the pretest and they don't need to take that lesson. So they're just going to skip it and it does that automatically for you. So we're going to close this out. I'm going to skip language arts for now. We might get back to it, but as you're going through, you're going to do each one of these. And you can do them in any order you want. For me, it just makes sense to go through and do them in the order that they're listed, especially if I only have the one student to grade. So I'm going to go into this literature course because it's going to show us some other interesting things. So I'm drilling down to see where my student is. I'm seeing that, let's see, this is assigned, this is graded. This is because this course is very essay heavy. And so if there are essays to be graded, this course lets them, if all there are essays to be graded, this course lets them go ahead and start working on the next lesson. But you'll notice that I've actually manually blocked all the kids from going into this chapter 2 because we want them to have kind of a book club as we're doing this book together, and they're really anxious to see what happens next, so they just kind of keep going. So I've manually blocked that and asked everybody to just kind of be on the same page Monday when we get to school, so we can talk about this chapter 1. But they have already done the work in chapter 1, so we're going to go look at that. And just as you're in the process of grading, this is what you're going to do. You're going to look at the last thing they did and the next thing that's blocked and grade the assignment before that. So we're here. And the reason this is red is because it's an essay question. And it has 0 points because we have to decide how many points it gets. And you notice that there is no show answer. So you can either, as the parent, we're going to have two options here. We're working on getting the answer key to you in an email. We'll send you a digital copy of the questions and the answers, and then you can go in and see if their answer is correct. But since there's not that right now, we can go into show lesson and we can read chapter 1 here together. Let me see. I kind of thought that it was going to allow me to use the text to speech that the kids get to use, but it's not. That's okay. But we can go look and use our little find feature again and find where it says maybe Edmund. There we go. This tells to find a way to help your student. So first, you can go up, and you can't see me doing this, but I'm opening a new tab and going into Ignitia again in a new tab. And so let's say that my student has gotten a wrong answer on a question. Let's see. These are pretty simple. Let's say I don't know how to explain to my student what the word number means. Well, of course, you know that, but let's say it was a more complicated word like the word coefficient. I had that trouble yesterday. So I can highlight that word and click on this reference button. This tells me all I need to know about numbers. And if it's something that you can just real simply read real quick and send your student a message reminding them what a number is, that's great. However, sometimes it gets really detailed and it explains it in a way that I don't understand it well enough to teach it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to this other tab that I opened, and I'm going to go to Courses. I'm going to go to the Courses tab because that allows you to access all of the subjects in Ignitia. And you can go to, click on Subject and type in BLE. That's going to give you access to our blended learning library. Now, I know from my experience yesterday that what I'm looking for is in my Algebra 1 resources. So I want to go look at what a coefficient is. And so if your student is in Algebra 1, that's a great place to look. If they're in Math 700, start there. So you're going to preview that course, go into kind of where they're working, and see, usually skip the course overview. That's not going to help you with content and helping your student with content. So you go into that course in this blended learning library that Ignitia has, and you can see what your student can see. And look, this is the definition of a coefficient. This is you can find the definition of, oh, here's another neat trick. If you don't know where it is or it's not in that blended learning library, you can click on this search button. Let me do that a little more slowly. You're in the Courses tab, go over here to the search button. And then you can search for, let's say, absolute value. Click enter or search. There's absolute value. Click the eyeball to look at it. It opened a new tab. It's going to tell you the definition of absolute value. Oh, that's how you explain it. So now when you go to message your student to help them with that question that they got wrong, you will be able to remind them what that definition is.